Welcome to today's episode of Ancient Journeys. Picture this. You're standing in the heart of the African Rift Valley 2 million years ago, watching the sunrise paint endless grasslands in shades of gold and amber. The landscape stretches beyond every horizon, broken only by scattered acacia trees and distant volcanic peaks. This is Savannahstan, a vast ocean of grass that once covered millions of square kilometers across ancient Africa, presenting our early ancestors with their greatest challenge yet. Before you stands a small group of early humans, unlike any you might imagine. They're barely over 4 feet tall, with arms longer than yours and brains half your size. Yet in their hands, they clutch the crude stone tools that will help them survive one of the most daunting journeys in human history, the crossing of Africa's vast savannas. This is no leisurely stroll across open country. These grasslands are patrolled by saber-toothed cats, giant hyenas, and hunting packs of prehistoric wolves. The nearest water source might be days away, and a single wrong turn could mean death under the scorching African sun. Yet somehow, impossibly, these early humans are about to accomplish something no primate species had ever achieved. They're going to walk their way out of Africa and across 2 entire continents. How did they do it? What drove them to abandon the relative safety of familiar territories for the unknown dangers of endless grasslands? And most remarkably, how did creatures with brains smaller than ours develop the intelligence, endurance, and social cooperation necessary to traverse thousands of miles of hostile terrain? The answers lie in one of evolution's greatest experiments, the transformation of tree-dwelling apes into the world's most accomplished long-distance travelers. This is the story of how our ancestors learned to run, how they mastered the art of persistence, and how their conquest of the savannas set the stage for humanity's eventual dominance of the planet. Chapter 1. The birth of the grassland world. 10 million years ago, Africa was a different world. Dense forests stretched from coast to coast, broken only by rivers and lakes that teemed with life. In these lush woodlands, early primates swung through canopies that never seemed to end, their lives bounded by the comfortable predictability of trees and fruit and shade. But deep beneath the surface, forces were stirring that would transform this verdant continent into something unprecedented in Earth's history, the birthplace of grasslands. The story begins not with animals, but with climate. As the planet gradually cooled during the late Miocene epoch, the atmospheric rivers that had nourished Africa's forests began to weaken. The monsoon system shifted, rainfall patterns changed, and slowly, inexorably, the great forests began to retreat. In their place, something new was emerging. Vast expanses of grass-covered land that would eventually stretch from the Atlantic to the Indian Ocean. This wasn't a sudden catastrophe, but a gradual transformation that unfolded over millions of years. Scientists studying deep-sea sediment cores from the Red Sea and western Indian Ocean have discovered chemical signatures of this momentous change, showing that between 24 million and 10 million years ago, Africa was dominated by woodlands, but then grasses began to appear with an apparent shift in climate. These marine records provide a remarkable window into ancient Africa, capturing chemical fingerprints of vegetation that was washed or blown from the continent into the ocean. The expansion of grasslands represented more than just a change in vegetation. It was the creation of an entirely new type of ecosystem. Unlike forests, where trees create layers of habitats from canopy to forest floor, grasslands are fundamentally 2-dimensional landscapes. They offer vast horizontal spaces with few vertical refuges, places where visibility extends for kilometers and survival depends on speed, endurance, and the ability to read environmental cues across enormous distances. The fossil evidence from East Africa's Turkana Basin reveals that this grassland expansion occurred in at least 4 distinct pulses during the Pliocene and early Pleistocene rather than as a single gradual trend. Each pulse of change created new selective pressures on the animals living there. favoring different traits and triggering waves of evolutionary innovation. For the early primates living in these changing landscapes, the expansion of grasslands represented both crisis and opportunity. Traditional food sources, forest fruits and leaves became scarce or required longer journeys to reach. The scattered trees that remained were isolated islands in seas of grass, accessible only to those willing to venture across open ground. Many species couldn't adapt to these new conditions and went extinct. But for a few pioneering lineages, the grasslands offered something unprecedented: space to roam. The early human ancestors who would eventually master these grasslands didn't start as ground dwellers. Fossil evidence suggests that the earliest bipeds lived in wooded, semi-forested habitats, and that the transition to more open environments was gradual. But as the forest continued to fragment, these early humans found themselves spending increasing amounts of time on the ground, moving between isolated tree groves across open grassland. This environmental transformation coincided with one of the most important developments in human evolution: the emergence of bipedalism. While scientists continued to debate the exact causes of upright walking, the savanna hypothesis suggests that human ancestors began walking on two legs to move more efficiently across grasslands to reach scattered tree patches that contained their preferred foods. Standing upright offered multiple advantages in grassland environments: improved visibility over tall grass, more efficient travel between distant food sources, and better thermoregulation in open sun. The chemistry of ancient soils tells us more about these early grassland environments. Analysis of paleosols from East African sites reveals that the vegetation was not uniform grassland, but rather a complex mosaic of different plant communities, ranging from wooded areas to open savannas. This diversity was crucial for early human survival, providing varied resources and multiple microhabitats within the broader grassland ecosystem. But perhaps most importantly, the expansion of grasslands created something that had existed before in primate evolution: selective pressure for long-distance travel. Unlike forest environments, where resources are vertically stacked and relatively close together, grassland resources are scattered across vast horizontal distances. Success in these environments required the ability to travel far, remember the locations of distant resources, and coordinate group movements across landscapes larger than any primate species had previously encountered. The fossil record from this period shows remarkable changes in early human anatomy that reflect adaptation to this new lifestyle. Leg bones become longer and more robust. Pelvis structure changes to support efficient bipedal locomotion, and foot anatomy evolves toward the specialized structure we see in modern humans. These weren't just gradual improvements in existing traits, but fundamental reorganizations of the body plan optimized for a new way of life. The creation of Africa's grasslands also triggered broader ecological changes that would prove crucial for human evolution. Large grazing animals, ancestors of zebras, antelopes, and elephants, flourished in these open environments, providing potential sources of protein for any human ancestors clever enough to exploit them. The predators that hunted these animals also evolved new strategies, creating an arms race of speed, intelligence, and social cooperation that early humans would be forced to join. Archaeological evidence from early hominin sites shows that our ancestors were quick to take advantage of grassland opportunities. Stone tools and cut-marked bones from sites dating back 2.6 million years ago provide direct evidence that early humans were processing large animals, clear indication that they had learned to exploit the protein resources of grassland environments. This dietary shift toward meat consumption would prove crucial for supporting the larger brains that would eventually enable complex planning and social coordination. Climate records reveal that Africa's grassland expansion wasn't a smooth, linear process. Paleoclimatic evidence shows that environments fluctuated widely between moist and dry conditions, and that periods of high climate variability coincided with key milestones in human evolution, including bipedalism, brain growth, and tool use. This variability may have been even more important than the gradual trend toward grassland expansion, selecting for adaptability and flexibility rather than specialization to any single environment. The scale of this transformation is difficult to imagine. Modern reconstructions suggest that at its peak, Africa's grassland ecosystem covered an area larger than the entire continental United States, creating an almost continuous corridor of similar habitat stretching from the Atlantic coast to the Horn of Africa. For early humans evolving within this system, the grasslands must have seemed infinite, an endless expanse of golden grass punctuated by scattered groves and distant mountains. This was the world that shaped our earliest ancestors, the landscape that selected for upright walking, long-distance travel, and the beginnings of the technological and social adaptations that would eventually carry our species around the globe. In learning to cross Africa's vast savannas, early humans weren't just adapting to a new environment. They were developing the fundamental capabilities that would make them the most successful traveling species in Earth's history. The grasslands of ancient Africa were more than just a new habitat. They were a training ground for global conquest. Here, surrounded by endless horizons and faced with challenges no primate had ever encountered, our ancestors began their transformation from tree-dwelling apes into the Pite, world's most accomplished long-distance travelers. Chapter 2. Standing tall in open country. In a grove of acacia trees beside what was once a vast African lake, the fossilized footprints of 3 early humans stretch across ancient volcanic ash, preserved for 3.6 million years like a snapshot frozen in time. These are the Latoli footprints, discovered in Tanzania by Mary Leakey, and they tell an extraordinary story about the day our ancestors first mastered the art of walking upright across open ground. The 3 individuals who made these tracks, possibly a male, female, and child traveling together, walked across the landscape with a gait remarkably similar to our own. Their footprints show the distinctive heel strike and toe push-off pattern of modern human walking, the long stride length that covers ground efficiently, and the narrow trackway that indicates they had already evolved to develop specialized pelvic adaptations necessary for sustained bipedal locomotion. But what makes these footprints truly remarkable isn't just that they show early humans walking upright, it's where they were walking. The Latoli site was part of a mosaic environment that included both wooded areas and open grasslands, and the trackway shows these early humans confidently crossing open ground between tree clusters. They were pioneers, among the first primates to venture regularly into the dangerous openness of grassland environments. The evolution of upright walking represents one of the most dramatic transformations in the history of life on Earth. No other primate species had ever committed so completely to bipedal locomotion, abandoning the safety and familiarity of life in the trees for the challenges and opportunities of ground-based travel. This transition required fundamental reorganizations of anatomy, physiology, and behavior that touched every aspect of early human biology. The shift to bipedalism involved extensive changes to the pelvis, which had to be completely restructured to support the body's weight on 2 legs instead of 4. The human pelvis became shorter and broader than that of our ape ancestors, creating a bowl-shaped structure that could support internal organs during upright locomotion. This change came with costs. The narrower birth canal made childbirth more difficult and dangerous, but the advantages in grassland environments apparently outweighed these risks. The transformation of the leg bones was equally dramatic. The thigh bones of bipedal humans evolved a distinctive angle at the knee that brings the feet directly under the body's center of gravity, while the knee joints themselves became capable of locking in full extension to support body weight during standing and walking. These changes created a locomotor system optimized for efficiency over long distances rather than speed or agility in trees. Perhaps most remarkably, the foot underwent a complete functional reorganization. By the time Homo erectus emerged around 2 million years ago, early humans had evolved a modern foot architecture almost indistinguishable from our own, with long Achilles tendons, shortened toes, and specialized arch structures that functioned as springs during walking and running. This foot design represents one of evolution's most elegant solutions to the challenge of efficient terrestrial locomotion. But why did our ancestors make this radical commitment to upright walking? The traditional savanna hypothesis suggests several compelling advantages. Standing upright in grassland environments would have provided improved visibility over tall grass for spotting both predators and prey, more efficient locomotion for traveling between scattered food sources, and better thermoregulation by reducing the body surface exposed to direct sunlight. Recent research has revealed additional benefits that may have been even more important. Biomechanical studies show that bipedal walking is significantly more energy efficient than quadrupedal locomotion over long distances, especially at the moderate speeds that would have been sustainable for extended travel. In grassland environments where food and water sources might be separated by many kilometers, this energy efficiency would have provided crucial survival advantages. The freeing of the hands for carrying may have been equally important. Upright walking allowed early humans to carry tools, food, and other essential items during long journeys across open country, enabling them to transport resources between distant locations and plan for future needs. This carrying capacity was particularly valuable in grassland environments where resources were widely scattered and unpredictable. Fossil evidence reveals that the transition to full bipedalism was gradual, occurring over several million years as different populations adapted to changing environmental conditions. By 5 million years ago, early human ancestors had developed the ability to walk upright, but retained anatomical features that helped them climb trees, while by 1.8 million years ago, they had evolved long legs and efficient striding gait, optimized for covering long distances on the ground. The development of endurance capabilities was a crucial component of this bipedal adaptation. Unlike other primates, humans evolved specialized anatomical features for sustained distance running, including elastic energy storage in the foot and leg, efficient heat dissipation through sweating, and respiratory systems optimized for sustained aerobic activity. These adaptations suggest that early humans weren't just walking across grasslands, they were running. The endurance running hypothesis proposes that natural selection favored early humans who could run long distances, perhaps to chase prey animals to exhaustion or to reach animal carcasses before other scavengers. This form of persistence hunting would have been particularly effective in hot grassland environments where human thermoregulatory advantages could be fully exploited. Archaeological evidence supports the importance of running in early human evolution. The fossil record shows features associated with endurance running appearing around 2 million years ago with the evolution of Homo erectus, including longer legs, specialized foot anatomy, and evidence of enhanced cardiovascular capacity. These features represent evolutionary investments in sustained locomotor performance that would have been crucial for grassland survival. But mastering upright walking involved more than just anatomical changes. It required learning entirely new ways of moving through the environment. Modern studies of human gait reveal the extraordinary complexity of bipedal locomotion, which involves precise coordination of dozens of muscle groups and sophisticated neural control systems. Early humans had to develop these capabilities from scratch, learning through trial and error how to balance, stride, and navigate while moving upright across uneven terrain. The social implications of bipedalism may have been equally important. Standing upright changed the nature of social interactions, making facial expressions and gestures more visible during group travel and potentially facilitating the development of complex communication systems. For groups crossing dangerous grassland environments, Improved communication would have been essential for coordinating movements and responding to threats. The costs of bipedalism were significant and long-lasting. Back pain, joint problems, and other musculoskeletal issues that affect modern humans are largely consequences of our bipedal adaptation, representing evolutionary compromises between locomotor efficiency and structural limitations. But for early humans facing the challenges of grassland environments, these costs were apparently acceptable trade-offs for the advantages of upright locomotion. The evolution of bipedalism also created new vulnerabilities that early humans had to overcome through behavioral adaptations. Unlike their quadrupedal ancestors, bipedal humans couldn't quickly escape into trees when threatened by predators. This limitation forced early human groups to develop alternative survival strategies, including tool use, cooperative defense, and sophisticated predator avoidance behaviors. Perhaps most importantly, the mastery of upright walking opened up entirely new possibilities for human evolution. The anatomical changes associated with bipedalism provided the foundation for later developments, including brain expansion, advanced tool use, and complex social behaviors. Without the commitment to upright walking that began in Africa's grasslands, none of the later achievements of human evolution would have been possible. The Laetoli footprints provide a poignant reminder of what this transformation meant for individual early humans. Those three individuals walking across ancient grassland were participating in one of evolution's greatest experiments, testing new ways of moving through the world that would eventually carry their descendants to every continent on Earth. Their confident strides across open ground represented not just a new form of locomotion, but a new relationship with the landscape, one based on movement, exploration, and the courage to venture into the unknown. In learning to stand tall in open country, our ancestors took their first steps toward becoming the traveling species we are today. Chapter 3. The Art of Endless Walking. Dawn breaks over the East African grasslands, and already the small band of early humans is in motion. They move with a steady, rhythmic gait that seems to eat up the kilometers without effort-long strides that cover ground efficiently. Arms swinging in counterbalance, heads held high to scan the horizon. This is the signature locomotion of early Homo erectus, a walking style so distinctively human that it has remained essentially unchanged for nearly 2 million years. But this isn't casual strolling. These early humans are engaged in one of the most remarkable athletic feats in the natural world: sustained long-distance travel across vast landscapes that would challenge even modern endurance athletes. Day after day, they cover distances that rival the daily movements of Africa's great migrating herds, following seasonal patterns of resource availability across territories that span hundreds of kilometers. The tall bodies and long legs of Homo erectus were specifically adapted for this lifestyle, with body proportions similar to modern humans, optimized for efficient long-distance travel. Unlike their shorter-legged predecessors, these early humans had evolved anatomy that minimized the metabolic cost of walking while maximizing stride efficiency, a design that allowed them to cover enormous distances without excessive energy expenditure. The mechanics of human walking represent one of evolution's most elegant solutions to the challenge of efficient terrestrial locomotion. Human bipedal gait involves a sophisticated interplay of kinetic and potential energy storage and release, with specialized structures like the plantar arch of the foot and Achilles tendon acting as springs that return energy with each step. This system allows humans to maintain steady speeds over long distances with remarkably low energy costs. Modern biomechanical studies reveal just how extraordinary human walking performance really is. Humans are among the most economical walkers in the animal kingdom, capable of maintaining moderate speeds for extended periods with less energy expenditure per kilometer than most quadrupedal mammals of similar size. This efficiency becomes even more pronounced over very long distances, where human endurance advantages become increasingly apparent. But the early mastery of long-distance walking involved more than just mechanical efficiency. It required fundamental changes in physiology, behavior, and social organization. Early humans evolved enhanced cardiovascular systems, improved thermoregulatory capabilities, including increased sweating capacity, and specialized metabolic adaptations that supported sustained aerobic activity. These changes transformed early humans into biological machines optimized for continuous locomotion. The development of endurance walking capabilities appears to have been closely linked with dietary changes that provided the energy necessary for sustained travel. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans were increasingly incorporating meat and other high-quality proteins into their diets around the same time that they were evolving enhanced locomotor capabilities. This dietary shift provided the caloric density necessary to fuel long-distance movements while supporting larger, more energy-demanding brains. Persistence hunting may have been one of the key selective pressures driving the evolution of human endurance capabilities. This hunting strategy, still practiced by some modern hunter-gatherer groups, involves chasing prey animals to exhaustion over distances that can exceed 25 kilometers. In hot grassland environments, human advantages in thermoregulation and sustained aerobic performance could allow hunters to outlast much faster prey animals. The effectiveness of persistence hunting depends critically on the ability to track prey over long distances while maintaining pursuit pressure. Modern practitioners of this technique must possess not only exceptional endurance, but also sophisticated tracking skills, environmental knowledge, and the ability to predict animal behavior patterns. The development of these capabilities would have required cognitive abilities approaching those of modern humans. However, some researchers question whether persistence hunting was frequent enough in ancestral environments to drive the evolution of human endurance running, noting that this technique is practiced today only in very specific environmental conditions and requires advanced intellectual abilities for tracking. Alternative explanations focus on the more general advantages of enhanced mobility in grassland environments. Scavenging may have provided equally important selective pressure for long-distance travel capabilities. Early humans who could reach animal carcasses quickly after death would have gained significant advantages in competition with other scavengers, and the ability to cover large territories rapidly would have increased opportunities to locate fresh carcasses. In grassland environments where carcass locations are unpredictable, mobility would have been crucial for scavenging success. The social dimensions of long-distance walking were equally important. Group travel across dangerous grassland environments required unprecedented levels of cooperation and coordination. Successful long-distance movements involved collective decision-making about routes, timing, and rest stops, as well as systems for sharing loads and caring for group members who might be struggling. These requirements likely drove the evolution of enhanced communication abilities and social cohesion. Navigation across vast grassland landscapes posed cognitive challenges that pushed early human intellectual development in new directions. Unlike forest environments where landmarks are close and numerous, grasslands require navigation over distances where individual features may not be visible. Early humans had to develop mental mapping abilities, celestial navigation skills, and sophisticated environmental knowledge to successfully traverse these landscapes without becoming lost. The seasonal nature of grassland resources would have required early humans to develop complex temporal planning abilities. Success in grassland environments involved understanding seasonal patterns of rainfall, plant growth, and animal movements across territories that might span hundreds of kilometers. This environmental knowledge had to be integrated with group movement decisions and resource management strategies. Water management became critical for groups engaged in long-distance travel across grassland environments. Unlike forest environments where water sources are generally abundant, grasslands often feature widely scattered water sources that may be seasonal or unreliable. Early humans had to develop strategies for locating water sources, carrying water during travel, and rationing water supplies during extended journeys. Archaeological evidence from early hominin sites reveals increasingly sophisticated strategies for dealing with the challenges of grassland travel. Tool assemblages from Homo erectus sites show evidence of portable technologies designed for mobility, including lightweight tools that could be carried efficiently during long-distance movements. This technological adaptation reflects the practical requirements of a lifestyle based on constant travel. The evolution of enhanced memory and learning capabilities may have been driven partly by the cognitive demands of grassland travel. Successful navigation across vast territories required the ability to remember the locations of water sources, food resources, safe camping sites, and potential hazards across landscapes covering thousands of square kilometers. This environmental knowledge had to be updated continuously as conditions changed seasonally and over longer timescales. Group size optimization became crucial for long-distance travel across grassland environments. Groups had to be large enough to provide mutual protection and support during dangerous journeys, but small enough to move efficiently and find sufficient resources along their routes. Archaeological evidence suggests that early human groups were typically smaller than those of modern hunter-gatherers, possibly reflecting the mobility requirements of grassland lifestyles. The mastery of long-distance walking had profound implications for early human evolution and expansion. The ability to cover vast distances efficiently enabled early humans to exploit resources across much larger territories than their ancestors, to colonize new environments, and eventually to expand beyond Africa into Eurasia. Without these locomotor capabilities, the global expansion of early humans would have been impossible. Modern studies of traditional societies provide insights into the extraordinary distances that human walkers can cover. Contemporary long-distance walkers, like journalist Paul Salopik, who is retracing ancient human migration routes on foot, regularly cover 20 to 30 kilometers per day over extended periods. Early humans engaging in seasonal migrations might have covered even greater distances when following animal herds or seasonal resource availability. The art of endless walking that early humans developed in Africa's grasslands became the foundation for all subsequent human expansion and exploration. From the first tentative steps into open country to the eventual colonization of entire continents, human success has been built on our species' unique ability to keep walking, no matter how far the destination or how challenging the terrain. In mastering the art of endless walking, our ancestors didn't just learn to cross the savannas, they learned to cross the world. Chapter 4. Tools for a Grass-Covered World. In the red dirt of Olduvai Gorge, scattered among the fossilized bones of ancient elephants and antelopes, lie thousands of carefully crafted stone implements, humanity's first attempt to build technologies specifically designed for grassland living. These tools, dating back over 2.5 million years, represent far more than simple rocks shaped by early human hands. They are evidence of our ancestors' first systematic attempt to engineer solutions to the unique challenges of survival in open country. The oldest of these implements belong to what archaeologists call the Oldowan industry, simple but effective tools created by knocking sharp flakes from larger stone cores. At 2.6 million years old, these are among the earliest stone tools in the archaeological record, and their appearance coincides with the first evidence of systematic meat consumption by early humans. This timing is not coincidental. The tools and the diet they enabled were both responses to the opportunities and challenges of grassland environments. But these weren't crude, mindless creations. Modern experiments in stone tool manufacture reveal the sophisticated understanding of rock mechanics required to produce effective Oldowan tools. Creating sharp, durable cutting edges from raw stone requires knowledge of fracture patterns, striking angles, and material properties that must be learned through extended practice and cultural transmission. Early humans were engaged in what amounts to the first systematic technology development in Earth's history. The emergence of the Acheulean tool industry around 1.76 million years ago marked a quantum leap in technological sophistication. These tools, including the archaic hand axe, represented the first major innovation in stone tool technology and remained essentially unchanged for over 1 million years, suggesting they had achieved a near-optimal design for their intended purposes. The symmetrical, bifacial hand axes of the Acheulean tradition required hundreds of precisely controlled strikes to create and represent a level of planning and skill that approaches modern craftsmanship. What makes these tools remarkable isn't just their sophistication, but their clear adaptation to grassland environments. The large cutting tools of the Acheulean industry were ideally suited for processing the megafauna that roamed ancient grasslands, giant elephants, massive antelopes, and other large animals that provided enormous amounts of meat and other materials, but required specialized tools to butcher efficiently. Archaeological evidence from early tool sites reveals the extraordinary range of tasks these implements were used to perform. Cut marks on fossilized bones show that early humans used stone tools not just for removing meat, but for accessing bone marrow, processing hides, shaping wooden implements, and even modifying the tools themselves. This versatility was crucial for survival in environments where resources were scattered and unpredictable. The development of portable toolkits represents one of the most important innovations in early human technology. Unlike their forest-dwelling ancestors, early humans in grassland environments couldn't rely on finding suitable materials wherever they happened to be. The mobile lifestyle required by grassland living meant that tools had to be lightweight, durable, and multifunctional. This led to the development of curated technologies, carefully maintained tool sets that were carried from place to place and continually resharpened and modified. Raw material procurement became a complex logistical challenge in grassland environments. Unlike forest environments where suitable stone might be readily available, grasslands often feature widely scattered sources of tool-quality rock. Archaeological sites show that early humans were traveling considerable distances to obtain high-quality stone materials, sometimes carrying raw materials or finished tools for hundreds of kilometers. This behavior indicates sophisticated planning and resource management capabilities. The standardization of tool forms across vast geographic areas suggests that early humans had developed cultural traditions for technology transfer. Oldowan and Acheulean tools found across Africa and later across Eurasia show remarkable consistency in design and manufacturing techniques, indicating that technological knowledge was being transmitted faithfully across long distances and extended time periods. This cultural transmission was crucial for maintaining technological capabilities in mobile populations. Tool catching, the practice of storing tools at strategic locations for future use, appears to have been an important component of early human resource management strategies. Archaeological evidence from several sites suggests that early humans were deliberately placing tools at locations they expected to revisit, creating supply depots that supported long-distance movements across grassland territories. This behavior requires sophisticated spatial memory and long-term planning abilities. The development of composite tools implements made from multiple materials represents a significant advancement in technological thinking. While preservation issues mean that most organic components have been lost, modern experiments and ethnographic evidence suggest that early humans were hafting stone tools onto wooden handles, creating spears, digging sticks, and other specialized implements. These technologies would have been essential for exploiting grassland resources efficiently. Fire technology may have been equally important for grassland survival, though archaeological evidence for controlled fire use by early humans remains controversial. The earliest widely accepted evidence for fire control by Homo erectus dates to 1.27 million years ago in China. but some sites suggest earlier use. In grassland environments, fire would have provided protection from predators, extended foraging time, improved food processing capabilities, and served as a signal for coordinating group movements. The role of tools in social organization becomes particularly important in grassland environments where survival depends on group cooperation. Tool-making and sharing created social bonds and provided opportunities for knowledge transfer between group members. Archaeological evidence suggests that early humans were engaging in collaborative tool manufacture and sharing tool-making knowledge across generations. This social dimension of technology was crucial for maintaining group cohesion during long-distance movements. Specialization in tool use may have emerged as early human groups adapted to grassland lifestyles. Different individuals within groups might have developed expertise in particular types of tool manufacture or use, creating the first division of labor in human societies. This specialization would have increased group efficiency and provided backup capabilities when key individuals were injured or lost. The relationship between tools and hunting strategies becomes particularly complex in grassland environments. While direct evidence for hunting by early humans remains limited, the tools they created were certainly capable of processing large animals, and the cut marks found on fossilized bones suggest systematic butchery practices. Whether early humans were active hunters or primarily scavengers, their tools enabled them to exploit protein resources that would have been impossible to access otherwise. Experimental archaeology has provided crucial insights into the effectiveness of early human tools. Modern researchers using replica Oldowan and Acheulean implements have demonstrated their remarkable efficiency at processing animal carcasses, cutting through tough hides, breaking bones for marrow extraction, and performing other tasks essential for grassland survival. These experiments reveal that early human tools, while simple in appearance, were highly effective technologies perfectly suited to their intended purposes. The evolution of tool-making abilities appears to have been closely linked with brain development in early humans. The cognitive demands of tool manufacture, spatial reasoning, sequential planning, fine motor control may have provided selective pressure for increased brain size and complexity. This relationship between technology and intelligence created a positive feedback loop that accelerated both technological and cognitive development. Environmental constraints shaped tool development in important ways. The scarcity of trees in grassland environments meant that wooden tools had to be crafted from carefully selected materials and maintained over long periods. Similarly, the wide spacing of stone sources required early humans to develop efficient techniques for core preparation and flake production that maximized the number of tools that could be created from limited raw materials. The portability requirements of grassland lifestyles led to innovations in tool design that prioritized efficiency and multifunctionality over durability. Rather than creating specialized tools for every task, early humans developed versatile implements that could serve multiple purposes while remaining light enough to carry during long-distance travel. This design philosophy would continue to influence human technology development for millions of years. Tool maintenance and repair became crucial skills in grassland environments where replacement materials might not be readily available. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans were systematically resharpening and modifying their tools, extending their useful life through careful maintenance. This behavior indicates sophisticated understanding of tool performance characteristics and resource management principles. The social implications of tool technology extended beyond simple utility to include symbolic and cultural dimensions. The remarkable consistency of tool styles across vast geographic areas suggests that particular forms had cultural significance beyond their practical functions. Hand axes, in particular, show evidence of aesthetic considerations that go beyond pure functionality, including careful symmetry and surface finishing that may have served social or communicative purposes. Teaching and learning tool-making techniques required new forms of communication and social interaction. The complexity of Herculean tool manufacture suggests that early humans had developed systematic methods for transmitting technical knowledge, possibly including verbal instruction, demonstration, and guided practice. These educational processes were crucial for maintaining technological capabilities in mobile populations where individual expertise might be lost through accident or death. The tools developed by early humans in grassland environments provided the technological foundation for all subsequent human expansion and development. The basic principles of stone tool manufacture, composite tool construction, and portable technology design established during this period would continue to influence human technology for millions of years, eventually enabling the colonization of new continents and the development of complex civilizations. In creating tools for a grass-covered world, our ancestors didn't just solve immediate survival problems. They established the technological traditions that would eventually carry human civilization to unprecedented heights of complexity and capability. Chapter 5. Reading the Language of Atlanteans. CAPs. The old Homo erectus female stands motionless at the crest of a low hill, her weathered face scanning the endless grassland that stretches to the horizon in every direction. To untrained eyes, this landscape might appear monotonous, an undifferentiated expanse of golden grass beneath an azure sky. But her experienced gaze reads the subtle signs that spell the difference between life and death in this vast, open world. The quality of light that indicates distant water, the patterns of animal movement that reveal dangers, the seasonal changes in vegetation that guide her peoples, movements across territories larger than entire modern nations. This is landscape literacy at its most sophisticated, the ability to extract crucial survival information from environmental cues so subtle they're invisible to the uninitiated. Over millions of years of grassland living, early humans developed perceptual and cognitive abilities that transformed them into living navigation systems, capable of finding their way across vast territories using nothing more than careful observation of natural phenomena. The development of these skills was a matter of survival. In forest environments, resources are close at hand and landmarks are abundant. But grassland environments present entirely different challenges. Resources scattered across vast distances, few prominent landmarks, and seasonal changes that can transform familiar landscapes beyond recognition. Success in these environments required early humans to become masters of environmental interpretation. Water detection was perhaps the most critical of these skills. In grassland environments where water sources might be separated by many kilometers, the ability to locate water from a distance could mean the difference between survival and death. Early humans learned to read the subtle environmental cues that indicated the presence of water, the behavior of birds flying in straight lines toward distant sources, the quality of vegetation in areas with subsurface water, the formation of fog or mist that revealed hidden springs or streams. The modern studies of traditional peoples living in arid environments reveal the extraordinary sophistication of these water-finding techniques. Aboriginal Australians can detect underground water sources from the behavior of certain ant species, the growth patterns of specific plants, and even the sound characteristics of different types of terrain. Early humans crossing Africa's grasslands would have needed similar expertise to survive in environments where surface water was scarce and unpredictable. The ability to predict weather patterns was equally crucial for grassland survival. Unlike forest environments where trees provide shelter and resources remain relatively stable, grassland environments are highly sensitive to weather changes. Early humans had to learn to read cloud formations, wind patterns, and atmospheric conditions to predict coming storms, seasonal changes, and periods of drought that could make travel dangerous or impossible. Seasonal pattern recognition required early humans to develop sophisticated temporal mapping abilities. Grassland resources, water, plant foods, animal movements follow complex seasonal cycles that vary with rainfall patterns, temperature changes, and astronomical cycles. Early humans who could predict these patterns would have gained enormous advantages in resource planning and territorial movements. Animal behavior interpretation became another crucial component of grassland literacy. The movements and behaviors of other species provided early humans with vital information about environmental conditions, resource locations, and potential dangers. Flocks of vultures indicated carcass locations that could provide scavenging opportunities, while the alarm calls and flight patterns of prey animals revealed the presence of predators that might threaten human groups. The spacing and behavior of grazing animals also provided information about the quality and availability of plant resources in different areas. Early humans learned to recognize which areas could support their own foraging activities by observing how successfully other species were utilizing those resources. This ecological knowledge was particularly important during dry seasons when resource availability was most limited. Fire ecology represented another dimension of landscape literacy that early humans had to master. Grassland environments are shaped by periodic fires that renew vegetation, create new growth patterns, and influence animal movements. Understanding fire patterns, where fires had burned recently, where they were likely to occur, and how different areas recovered from burning, was crucial for predicting resource availability and planning safe travel routes. The relationship between topography and resources required sophisticated, three-dimensional thinking about landscape structure. In grassland environments, small differences in elevation can create dramatic differences in water availability, soil quality, and vegetation types. Early humans learned to read these subtle topographic cues to predict where resources were most likely to be found, even in areas they had never visited before. Mineral and stone source recognition was essential for maintaining tool technologies during long-distance movements. Early humans developed the ability to identify promising geological formations from a distance, recognize different types of stone materials by their appearance and weathering patterns, and predict the quality of tool-making materials from surface indicators. This knowledge was particularly important in grassland environments where high-quality stone might be available only at widely scattered locations. Social information gathering became integrated with environmental observation as early human groups learned to coordinate their landscape knowledge. Different individuals might specialize in different types of environmental expertise, sharing information about resources, hazards, and travel conditions across the group's territory. This social dimension of landscape literacy allowed groups to maintain detailed knowledge of areas too large for any individual to monitor effectively. The development of landmark systems required early humans to identify and remember features that could serve as navigation aids across vast grassland territories. Unlike forests where landmarks are numerous and close together, grasslands feature widely scattered prominent features. Early humans learned to use distant mountains, unusual rock formations, distinctive tree groves, and even temporary features like termite mounds as reference points for navigation. Memory palace techniques, though not consciously developed as such, became crucial for storing and organizing the vast amounts of environmental information required for grassland survival. Early humans had to remember the locations of hundreds of water sources, thousands of resource patches, and countless landmarks across territories covering thousands of square kilometers. This cognitive challenge may have provided selective pressure for enhanced memory capabilities and spatial reasoning abilities. The integration of celestial navigation with terrestrial landmarks allowed early humans to maintain orientation during long-distance movements across featureless terrain. Learning to use the sun, moon, and star patterns for Direction finding was essential for successful navigation in environments where terrestrial landmarks might not be visible for many kilometers. Seasonal astronomical observations provided temporal reference points that helped early humans coordinate their activities with natural cycles. Understanding the relationships between celestial events and seasonal changes in weather, resources, and animal behavior was crucial for planning movements and activities across their territories. Hazard recognition became increasingly sophisticated as early humans learned to identify signs of dangerous conditions or predator activity. The ability to detect the presence of large carnivores from tracks, scent marks, or disturbed vegetation was essential for avoiding potentially deadly encounters. Similarly, recognizing signs of unstable weather, difficult terrain, or contaminated water sources could prevent groups from making dangerous mistakes. The transmission of landscape literacy across generations required early humans to develop systematic methods for teaching environmental knowledge. Young group members had to learn not just specific information about particular locations, but the general principles of environmental interpretation that would allow them to read unfamiliar landscapes. This educational process was crucial for maintaining group survival capabilities as populations moved into new territories. The cumulative nature of landscape literacy meant that early human groups were constantly adding to their environmental knowledge base. Each generation built upon the discoveries and observations of their predecessors, creating increasingly detailed and sophisticated understanding of grassland environments. This accumulation of knowledge provided competitive advantages that enabled successful groups to expand their territories and populations. The landscape literacy, developed by early humans in African grasslands, provided the cognitive and perceptual foundation for all subsequent human expansion into new environments. The ability to read environmental cues, predict resource availability, and navigate across unfamiliar terrain would prove crucial for the colonization of new continents and the adaptation to diverse ecosystems around the world. In learning to read the language of landscapes, early humans developed more than survival skills. They created the intellectual framework that would eventually enable our species to thrive in every environment on Earth. Chapter 6. The Water HUNTRS. The small group of early humans moved through the pre-dawn darkness like shadows, their bare feet silent on the dry grass as they follow an ancient game trail toward the eastern horizon. They are not hunting animals this morning, but something even more precious in this vast grassland world: water. The old male who leads them carries generations of knowledge in his weathered hands, reading signs invisible to younger eyes. The faint green tinge of distant vegetation that hints at subsurface moisture, the flight patterns of birds that reveal hidden springs, the subtle changes in soil texture that mark ancient water courses now buried beneath layers of sediment. In the expanding grasslands of Pliocene Africa, the ability to find and secure water sources became one of the most crucial survival skills our ancestors could possess. Unlike the forest environments of their ancestors, where streams and springs were abundant and predictable, grassland landscapes presented early humans with scattered, seasonal, and often hidden water sources that required sophisticated knowledge and techniques to locate and exploit. The hydrogeology of grassland environments creates unique challenges for water procurement. Surface water sources, streams, ponds, and seasonal lakes are widely scattered and highly variable, depending on rainfall patterns that can change dramatically from year to year. During dry seasons, many surface sources disappear entirely, forcing early humans to rely on springs, seeps, and underground water sources that required specialized knowledge to locate and access. Early humans learned to identify the subtle environmental cues that indicated the presence of water even when none was visible on the surface. Certain plant species grow only where their roots can access groundwater, creating distinctive vegetation patterns that could guide water seekers to hidden springs and seeps. The behavior of animals also provided crucial information, as many species follow well-established routes to reliable water sources, creating game trails that early humans could follow to discover new sources. The seasonal timing of water availability required early human groups to develop complex scheduling strategies for their movements across grassland territories. Different water sources follow different seasonal patterns. Some springs flow year-round, others are active only during wet seasons, and still others may be ephemeral pools that exist for only brief periods after rainfall. Successful grassland survival required intimate knowledge of these patterns and the ability to plan group movements around water availability. Water storage and transport technologies became increasingly important as early humans extended their ranging behavior across larger territories. While the archaeological record preserves little direct evidence of early water containers, the distances that early human groups were traveling suggest they must have developed some means of carrying water during extended journeys. Possible solutions include animal bladders, large shells, or even simple containers made from plant materials. The development of water extraction techniques allowed early humans to access sources that would have been unavailable to other species. Simple tools could be used to dig shallow wells at springs and seeps, increasing water flow and creating more reliable access. Similarly, techniques for clearing vegetation around water sources could improve both the quality and quantity of available water. Competition for water sources created new challenges for early human social organization. In grassland environments where water is scarce and predictable sources are few, different groups might compete for access to the same resources. This competition could lead to conflict, but it also created opportunities for cooperation, trade, and the development of resource-sharing agreements between groups. The territorial implications of water control were profound. Groups that could successfully defend access to reliable water sources would have held significant advantages over competitors, while those without secure water access would have been vulnerable to displacement or elimination. This dynamic may have provided selective pressure for larger group sizes, better weapons, and more sophisticated social organization. Water quality assessment became another crucial skill for grassland survival. Not all water sources are safe to drink, and contaminated water could quickly incapacitate or kill group members. Early humans learned to evaluate water quality through visual inspection, taste, smell, and observation of animal behavior around different sources. They also developed techniques for improving water quality through simple filtration or settling processes. The prediction of water availability during drought conditions required early humans to understand the long-term reliability of different source types. Some springs continue flowing even during extended dry periods, while others may fail after just a few weeks without rain. Knowledge of which sources could be counted on during difficult periods was crucial for survival planning and risk management. Underground water detection may have been one of the most sophisticated skills early humans developed. Modern studies of traditional peoples in arid environments reveal remarkable abilities to locate subsurface water through subtle environmental cues, changes in soil moisture, the behavior of insects, the growth patterns of certain plants, and even the acoustic properties of different geological formations. The social organization of water procurement required cooperation and coordination among group members. Water sources might be located far from other resources, requiring some individuals to specialize in water finding while others focused on food procurement or tool manufacture. This division of labor was essential for efficient utilization of scattered grassland resources. Water-related rituals and taboos may have emerged as early humans developed cultural systems for managing these crucial resources. While direct evidence is limited, The importance of water for survival would have made it a natural focus for the development of social rules, religious beliefs, and cultural practices that helped regulate access and prevent conflicts. The relationship between water sources and settlement patterns shaped early human land use strategies. Groups might establish temporary camps near reliable water sources and then range out from these bases to exploit food resources in surrounding areas. This pattern of settlement would have influenced social organization, territorial boundaries, and seasonal movement cycles. Climate change impacts on water availability created additional challenges for early human adaptation. As Africa's climate became more arid during the Pliocene and Pleistocene, many traditional water sources would have become less reliable or disappeared entirely. Early human groups had to constantly adapt their water-finding strategies to changing environmental conditions. The development of backup water sources was crucial for risk management in unpredictable grassland environments. Successful groups couldn't rely on single water sources, but needed to maintain knowledge of multiple alternatives within their territories. This redundancy required extensive exploration and the ability to remember and navigate to numerous widely scattered locations. Water sharing protocols became important components of early human social systems. During periods of scarcity, groups needed mechanisms for allocating limited water resources fairly while maintaining group cohesion. These protocols may have been among the earliest forms of resource management in human societies. The integration of water knowledge with other environmental expertise created comprehensive landscape management systems. Understanding the relationships between water availability, vegetation patterns, animal movements, and seasonal cycles allowed early human groups to optimize their use of grassland territories and plan their activities around natural resource cycles. Long distance water reconnaissance may have been necessary during extended dry periods when local sources failed. Small groups of individuals might be sent out to locate distant water sources, requiring them to travel for days or weeks across unfamiliar territory while carrying minimal supplies. These reconnaissance missions would have been extremely dangerous but essential for group survival. The cumulative nature of water knowledge meant that successful groups were constantly adding to their understanding of water resources across their territories. Each dry season provided new information about source reliability. Each wet season revealed new temporary sources, and each generation passed on increasingly detailed knowledge about water patterns and procurement techniques. The water hunting skills developed by early humans in African grasslands provided crucial capabilities that would prove essential during later expansions into new environments. The ability to locate and secure water resources in challenging conditions would be critical for the colonization of arid regions and the survival of human populations in diverse environments around the world. In becoming water hunters, early humans developed more than survival skills. They created the foundation for systematic resource management that would eventually enable complex societies and global expansion. Chapter 7. Predators and Peripheries. Massive saber-toothed cat emerges from the tall grass like a nightmare-given flesh, its canine teeth gleaming in the afternoon sun as it stalks toward the small group of early humans gathered around a freshly killed antelope. This is Meganterion, one of Africa's most formidable predators, and it has been attracted by the scent of fresh meat that early human scavengers hoped to claim for themselves. The humans freeze, their crude stone tools suddenly seeming pitifully inadequate against nearly 200 kilograms of perfectly designed killing machine. But these early humans don't flee. Instead, they begin a coordinated response that represents one of the most remarkable behavioral innovations in the history of life on Earth: cooperative defense against apex predators. While other prey species scatter when threatened by large carnivores, early humans are learning to stand together using tools, voices, and group coordination to transform themselves from helpless victims into formidable opponents. The grasslands of Pliocene and Pleistocene Africa were among the most dangerous environments any primate species had ever attempted to colonize. The open country that stretched across much of the continent was patrolled by an extraordinary assemblage of predators that included not only saber-toothed cats like Megantereon and Mechaerodus, but also giant hyenas, hunting dogs, leopards, and even predatory crocodiles in areas near water sources. For early humans venturing into this landscape, every day was a struggle for survival against creatures specifically evolved to kill large mammals. The predator guild of ancient African grasslands was unlike anything that exists today. Modern African savannas, dangerous as they are, pale in comparison to the prehistoric assemblages that early humans had to face. Giant hyenas of the genus Pachycracuta were significantly larger than modern spotted hyenas and were capable of taking down prey as large as elephants. Enormous hunting dogs roamed in packs that could number in the dozens, while multiple species of large cats filled ecological niches that no longer exist. The transition from forest to grassland environments exposed early humans to predation pressures their species had never encountered. Forest-dwelling ancestors could escape predators by climbing trees, but bipedal early humans had largely given up arboreal capabilities in favor of terrestrial efficiency. This evolutionary trade-off left them vulnerable to ground-based predators in ways that their ancestors had never experienced. Archaeological evidence suggests that predation pressure was indeed a significant factor in early human evolution and behavior. Bite marks on fossil hominin bones, including the famous Tong-child Australopithecus skull, show that early humans were regularly being taken by large predators. Cave sites that preserve early human remains often show evidence of carnivore activity, suggesting that predators were successfully hunting early human groups. However, early humans were not passive victims in this predator-prey dynamic. The development of stone tool technology provided new capabilities for defense against large carnivores. Sharp-edged tools could inflict serious wounds on attacking predators, while the ability to process carcasses quickly reduced. The time groups had to spend in vulnerable positions around fresh meat that attracted scavengers. Group living became increasingly important as a defense strategy against predation. Larger groups provided more eyes for predator detection, more individuals to participate in coordinated defense, and better odds that some group members would survive predator attacks. The social organization of early human groups appears to have been significantly influenced by anti-predator strategies that required cooperation and communication. The use of fire may have been crucial for predator defense, though archaeological evidence for early fire control remains controversial. Fire would have provided protection during vulnerable nighttime periods when many large carnivores are most active. The ability to maintain fires would have extended the safe hours available for group activities and provided secure bases for camps and sleeping areas. Vocal communication and alarm systems became essential components of anti-predator behavior. Early human groups needed ways to alert all group members to predator threats quickly and effectively. The development of complex vocal repertoires, including specific alarm calls for different types of predators, would have provided significant survival advantages in dangerous grassland environments. Weapon development was driven at least partly by predator defense requirements. While early stone tools were initially used primarily for food processing, their potential as weapons would have been quickly recognized. The development of hafted spears and other projectile weapons may have been motivated as much by defense needs as by hunting requirements. Tactical innovation in anti-predator behavior set early humans apart from other prey species. Rather than relying solely on flight or freezing responses, Early humans developed active defense strategies that included tool use, coordinated group actions, and even offensive tactics designed to drive predators away from resources or territory. The relationship between early humans and large carnivores was complex and involved more than simple predator-prey dynamics. Early humans were also competing with carnivores for access to carcasses and other resources, creating ecological relationships that combined elements of competition, predation, and occasionally even cooperation. Some evidence suggests that early humans may have followed large predators to scavenge from their kills. Scavenging behavior brought early humans into direct competition with specialized scavengers like hyenas, creating dangerous confrontations around carcass sites. The ability to drive off competing scavengers through group action and tool use would have been crucial for accessing the high-quality meat and marrow that became increasingly important in early human diets. The timing of scavenging activities was critical for avoiding dangerous encounters with both predators and competing scavengers. Early humans had to learn the behavioral patterns of other species to predict when carcass sites would be most accessible and least dangerous. This required sophisticated understanding of predator behavior and ecological relationships. Habitat selection strategies evolved to minimize predation risks while maximizing access to resources. Early human groups learned to avoid areas with high predator densities, to choose camping sites that provided natural protection, and to time their movements to reduce encounters with dangerous species. These habitat preferences influenced settlement patterns and territorial use. The development of lookout systems and sentinel behavior allowed early human groups to maintain awareness of predator threats while engaging in other activities. Some individuals would specialize in predator detection, while others focused on foraging, tool-making, or food processing. This division of labor was essential for maintaining group safety during vulnerable activities. Seasonal patterns in predator behavior required early humans to adjust their strategies throughout the year. Predator density, hunting success, and territorial behavior vary with seasonal changes in prey availability, weather conditions, and reproductive cycles. Early human groups had to understand these patterns to minimize their risk of dangerous encounters. The impact of predation pressure on early human social evolution was profound. The need for coordinated defense against large carnivores may have been one of the key selective pressures driving the evolution of enhanced communication abilities, social cooperation, and group cohesion. The survival advantages of effective anti-predator behavior would have strongly favored individuals capable of participating in group defense activities. Child protection strategies became increasingly sophisticated as early human groups developed techniques for keeping vulnerable group members safe during dangerous activities. Children and infants required constant protection in environments where predators posed continuous threats, influencing group organization and movement patterns. The psychological impact of constant predation pressure may have influenced early human cognitive development in important ways. The need for constant vigilance, quick decision-making under stress, and effective threat assessment would have selected for individuals with enhanced cognitive abilities and emotional regulation skills. Learning and cultural transmission of anti-predator knowledge became crucial for group survival. Young group members had to learn to recognize predator signs, understand appropriate responses to different types of threats, and master the skills necessary for effective group defense. This educational process was essential for maintaining group survival capabilities. The evolution of courage and risk-taking behavior in early humans may have been influenced by the need to defend group members and resources against dangerous predators. Individuals willing to take risks to protect their groups would have provided significant survival advantages, even if they sometimes paid personal costs for their bravery. The predator-prey relationships that shaped early human Evolution in African grasslands created selective pressures that influenced virtually every aspect of early human biology and behavior. The need to survive in environments dominated by large carnivores drove innovations in technology, social organization, communication, and cognition that provided the foundation for all subsequent human development. In learning to survive among the predators of ancient grasslands, early humans developed more than defense strategies. They acquired the courage, cooperation, and ingenuity that would eventually enable them to become the world's most successful predator species. Chapter 8. The Great Breakout, standing at the northern edge of the African continent, where the grasslands give way to desert and sea. A small band of Homo erectus faces the most momentous decision in human evolutionary history. Behind them stretch the familiar savannas where their species has lived and evolved for over 1 million years. Ahead lies the unknown vast deserts, foreign landscapes, and environments no human ancestor has ever seen. Yet something is driving them forward, compelling them to take the first steps in humanity's greatest journey, the migration out of Africa. This is the moment of the Great Breakout, when early humans first crossed the boundaries that had contained their species since its origin. Around 1.8 million years ago, Homo erectus migrated out of Africa via the Levantine corridor and Horn of Africa to Eurasia, dispersing throughout most of the Old World and reaching as far as Southeast Asia. This migration represents one of the most significant events in the history of life on Earth, the first time any human species had expanded beyond the African continent. The timing of this expansion was not coincidental. Climate research has revealed that periods of high climate variability coincided with key milestones in human evolution, including the dispersals of H. erectus, with several major hominin milestones occurring during periods of prolonged high climate variability. Changes in global climate patterns around 1.9 million years ago were transforming African environments and creating both push and pull factors that encouraged human expansion into new territories. The Saharan pump mechanism played a crucial role in enabling this first great migration. This migration has been proposed as being related to the operation of the Saharan pump around 1.9 million years ago. During humid periods, the Sahara transformed from an impassable desert into a green corridor dotted with lakes, rivers, and grasslands that could support human populations, moving northward toward the Mediterranean and the Middle East. What drove early humans to undertake such a dangerous journey? The traditional explanation focuses on following animal migrations and pursuing familiar resources into new territories. However, recent research suggests more complex motivations. Studies of early hominin sites show that all of the roughly 17,000 animal bones analyzed at Dunedin belong to Eurasian species, not African ones. Evidence that hominins were behaving differently from other animals and possibly taking advantage of prey that would not have known to fear humans. The physical capabilities that enabled this migration had been developing for hundreds of thousands of years in African grasslands. Early African Homo erectus fossils are the oldest known early humans to have possessed modern human-like body proportions, with relatively elongated legs and shorter arms compared to the size of the torso, features considered adaptations to a life lived on the ground with the ability to walk and possibly run long distances. The routes taken by these first human emigrants followed ancient pathways that would be used repeatedly throughout human history. The Levantine corridor, a narrow strip of territory between the Mediterranean Sea and the desert that includes present-day Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Palestine, and Jordan, provided a natural highway between Africa and Asia. Simultaneously, routes through the Horn of Africa led toward the Arabian Peninsula and, eventually, to southern Asia. Archaeological evidence from key sites along these migration routes reveals the Conservation routes reveals the remarkable success of early human expansion. The Tbilisi site in Georgia has yielded fossils dated to 1.85 million years old, making them the earliest evidence of hominins outside Africa, including 5 skulls, about 50 skeletal bones, and other remains that represent the oldest hominins known outside of Africa. The early migrants were surprisingly primitive compared to later human populations, yet they accomplished extraordinary feats of exploration and colonization. These pioneers were startlingly primitive, with small bodies about 1.5 meters tall, simple tools, and brains 1/3 to 1/2 the size of modern humans. Despite these limitations, they managed to travel thousands of kilometers from their African homeland and establish viable populations in completely unfamiliar environments. The speed of human expansion across Eurasia was remarkable. Stone tools bearing their distinctive craftsmanship began appearing across Eurasia in rapid succession. In the Caucasus Mountains by 1.8 million years ago, in China by 1.7 million years ago, and on the Indonesian island of Java by roughly the same time. This rapid dispersal suggests that early humans possessed not just the physical capabilities for long-distance travel, but also the behavioral flexibility to adapt quickly to new environments. The environmental challenges faced by these first emigrants were formidable. These primitive members of our genus Homo struggled to survive in a new land far north of their ancestors' African home, braving winters without clothes or fire and competing with fierce carnivores for meat. Success required not just physical endurance, but also the intelligence to solve novel problems and adapt existing skills to unfamiliar conditions. The social organization required for successful long-distance migration represented a quantum leap in human cooperation. Unlike animal migrations that follow instinctive patterns, human expansion required conscious decision-making about routes, destinations, and resource management. Groups had to maintain cohesion over extended periods, coordinate movements across difficult terrain, and make collective decisions about when to continue traveling and when to settle. The technology that enabled these migrations was remarkably simple yet effective. The stone tools found at Tbilisi and other early sites belong to the Old Awan or Modwan toolkit, the first tools made by hominins, which include simple flakes for scraping and cutting and spherical choppers for pounding. These basic implements were sufficient to support human populations across thousands of kilometers of diverse terrain. The cognitive capabilities required for successful migration included sophisticated navigation skills, environmental assessment abilities, and long-term planning capabilities. Early humans had to learn to read unfamiliar landscapes, predict resource availability in new environments, and maintain orientation across vast distances without modern navigation aids. The demographic consequences of successful migration were profound. Small founding populations had to establish viable breeding groups in new environments while maintaining the cultural knowledge necessary for survival. This required careful population management and probably involved multiple waves of migration to ensure genetic diversity and cultural continuity. The ecological impact of human arrival in new continents was immediate and far-reaching. For the first time in Earth's history, a highly adaptable, tool-using species was spreading across multiple continents simultaneously. This expansion set in motion ecological changes that would eventually transform ecosystems around the world. The success of the Great Breakout established patterns that would characterize human expansion for millions of years to come. The combination of technological innovation, social cooperation, and behavioral flexibility that enabled early humans to leave Africa would be refined and elaborated as our species continued to colonize new environments and overcome seemingly impossible barriers. Climate windows played crucial roles in enabling successful migration. During marine isotope stage 5 east, 130 to 117 Ka, humid episodes in the Sahara created uninterrupted freshwater corridors across currently hyperarid regions, providing pathways for human migration at key times. Understanding and exploiting these environmental opportunities was essential for successful long-distance movement. The multiple route hypothesis suggests that early human expansion was not a single event, but rather a series of movements that took advantage of different environmental conditions and geographic opportunities. Various routes have been proposed for human exit from Africa, including the Mediterranean coast, the Sahara, the Nile Valley, the Red Sea coast, and the Bab el-Mandeb, substantiating multiple dispersal pathways rather than a single route. The legacy of the Great Breakout extends far beyond the immediate success of early human migration. This first expansion out of Africa established the precedent for human global colonization, demonstrated our species' unique capacity for adaptation and exploration, and set in motion the processes that would eventually lead to human dominance of terrestrial ecosystems worldwide. The courage and determination required for the Great Breakout represent some of the most admirable qualities of our species. These early pioneers, with their small brains and simple tools, accomplished something that no other species had ever achieved: the conscious decision to leave familiar territory and seek new worlds beyond the horizon. In breaking out of Africa, early humans didn't just expand their geographic range. They broke the bounds of what was possible for any terrestrial species, establishing the foundation for humanity's eventual colonization of every habitable continent on Earth. Chapter 9. Following green Seorai Doresta, landscape that unfolds before the early human travelers is almost unrecognizable as the Sahara Desert of today. Where modern satellites reveal endless expanses of sand and rock, these ancient migrants encounter a green paradise of flowing rivers, scattered lakes, and grasslands teeming with life. This is the Sahara of 120,000 years ago, during a humid period that transformed Africa's greatest desert into humanity's highway to the north, a lush corridor that would guide our ancestors on one of their most important journeys out of their homeland. GEOCHEM ICAL data from deep-sea sediment cores reveal that water and fossil river systems derived from the south during wet episodes, penetrating all the way to the Mediterranean during marine isotope stage 5E in particular. This proves the existence of an uninterrupted freshwater corridor across a currently hyperarid region of the Sahara at a key time for early modern human migrations to the north and out of Africa. Spaceborne radar images have revealed networks of now-buried fossil river channels that extend across the desert to the Mediterranean coast, representing alternative dispersal corridors that would explain scattered findings at desert oases of Middle Stone Age, Aterian lithic industries with bifacial and tanged points. These ancient waterways created pathways that early humans could follow, providing not just water but also the plant and animal resources necessary for sustained travel across what would otherwise have been impossible terrain. The operation of these green corridors was driven by astronomical cycles that periodically transformed North African climate. During orbital insolation-induced African monsoon maxima, significantly more humid conditions prevailed over much of the Sahara, creating episodes of increased rainfall that supported extensive river systems and lake networks. The most recent of these so-called pluvials occurred during the early Holocene, when decorated pottery and other archaeological evidence attest to flourishing Neolithic civilizations in the heart of what is now desert. But the corridors available to early human migrants were not uniform green belts stretching uninterrupted from south to north. Instead, they formed complex networks of interconnected waterways that required sophisticated navigation and resource management skills to traverse successfully. Early humans had to learn to read the subtle environmental cues that indicated which routes were viable, which were temporary, and which might lead to dead ends in increasingly arid terrain. The fossil evidence from this period reveals multiple migration streams taking advantage of different corridor systems. While some groups may have followed the obvious route up the Nile Valley, archaeological evidence suggests that others used separate migrations along routes across the Sahara as far north as the Mediterranean coast. The absence of similar Middle Stone Age industries from the Nile Valley implies the existence of distinct cultural groups utilizing different corridor systems. The timing of human movement through these corridors was critical. Climate records show that the humid periods that created green corridors were relatively brief in geological terms, lasting perhaps only a few thousand years before giving way to arid conditions that would make travel impossible. Early human groups had to recognize and respond to these environmental windows, coordinating their movements with climatic opportunities that might not recur for tens of thousands of years. Water management became even more sophisticated as groups moved through corridor systems that were constantly changing. Unlike stable river systems, the waterways of the green corridors were highly dynamic, with flow patterns that could change dramatically with seasonal and annual variations in rainfall. Early humans had to develop strategies for predicting which routes would remain viable and which might dry up during their journey. The resources available along green corridors were different from those early humans had encountered in their grassland homelands. Saharan humid periods supported different plant and animal communities than those found in East or South African environments, requiring migrants to develop new foraging skills and dietary adaptations. Success in corridor environments demanded behavioral flexibility and the ability to exploit unfamiliar food sources. Archaeological evidence reveals that some groups were successful in establishing populations along corridor routes, creating way stations that could support later migrants. Sites throughout the Sahara preserve evidence of human occupation during humid periods, including tool assemblages, rock art, and structural remains that indicate substantial settlements rather than just temporary camps of passing travelers. The cultural diversity revealed by archaeological sites along different corridor routes suggests that multiple human populations were utilizing these pathways, possibly at different times or following different seasonal patterns. The Aterian complex found at Western sites differs significantly from the Nubian complex found along the Nile corridor, indicating that different groups developed distinct technological and cultural adaptations to corridor travel. The social organization required for successful corridor migration was more complex than that needed for movement within familiar territories. Groups had to coordinate movements across distances where conditions might change rapidly, manage resources during extended journeys through unfamiliar territory, and maintain group cohesion during periods of uncertainty and stress. Leadership and decision-making systems had to evolve to meet these challenges. Navigation through corridor systems required early humans to develop new spatial concepts and wayfinding techniques. Unlike the relatively stable landmarks of grassland environments, corridor routes were characterized by changing water levels, shifting vegetation patterns, and temporary features that might disappear between seasons. Success required the ability to navigate using more abstract spatial relationships and environmental patterns. The demographic consequences of corridor migration were significant. Small groups attempting to traverse vast distances faced risks of population bottlenecks, genetic isolation, and cultural knowledge loss. Successful corridor migration likely required minimum group sizes and possibly coordination between multiple groups to ensure viable founding populations in destination areas. Climate prediction capabilities became crucial for groups utilizing green corridors. The ability to anticipate seasonal and longer-term changes in corridor conditions could mean the difference between successful migration and catastrophic failure. Early humans had to develop sophisticated understanding of atmospheric patterns, seasonal cycles, and the environmental cues that predicted corridor viability. The technological adaptations required for corridor migration included portable technologies optimized for extended travel and resource processing systems that could handle the diverse and changing resources encountered along migration routes. Toolkits had to be lightweight yet versatile, capable of handling both familiar and novel challenges encountered during extended journeys. The speed of movement through corridors was constrained by the need to maintain group health and cohesion while covering vast distances. Modern estimates suggest that early human groups could cover 20 to 30 kilometers per day during optimal conditions, but maintaining such speeds over extended periods while supporting all group members would have required careful planning and resource management. Emergency survival strategies became critical for corridor travelers who might find themselves stranded when expected resources failed to materialize. Groups needed backup plans for dealing with dried-up water sources, failed food procurement, extreme weather events, and other crises that could occur during extended travel through challenging environments. The psychological challenges of corridor migration may have been as difficult as the physical ones. Traveling for months or years through unfamiliar territory toward uncertain destinations would have tested group morale and individual resilience. The ability to maintain hope and determination during extended hardship may have been as important as any technical skill. The success of early human migrations through green corridors established precedents and route knowledge that would be utilized by subsequent generations. Even after specific humid periods ended, the memory of successful routes could guide future migrations during later climatic opportunities. This cultural transmission of migration knowledge was crucial for repeated human expansions. The environmental impact of human movement through green corridors was probably minimal, due to small population sizes and the temporary nature of most occupations. However, the precedent of using environmental corridors for long-distance migration would eventually lead to much larger population movements that significantly impacted ecosystems along migration routes. The corridor migration events represent some of the most dramatic and consequential journeys in human prehistory. These movements required unprecedented levels of planning, coordination, and risk-taking, establishing our ancestors as the first species to systematically exploit environmental opportunities for long-distance colonization of new territories. The legacy of the Green Corridor migrations extends far beyond their immediate success in moving human populations across North Africa. These journeys demonstrated human capabilities for long-term planning, environmental adaptation, and coordinated group action that would prove crucial for all subsequent human expansions into new continents and environments. Modern climate research continues to reveal new details about the corridors that enabled these ancient migrations, providing insights not only into human prehistory, but also into the potential future impacts of climate change on human populations. The green corridors of the past offer both inspiration and warning about humanity's relationship with environmental change. In following green corridors north, our ancestors learned to read the rhythm of climate and environment on a continental scale, developing the skills and knowledge that would eventually enable human colonization of the entire planet. Chapter 10. Masters of de-ice. In the shimmering heat of a Kenyan afternoon, a modern Kalenjin runner moves across the landscape with an efficiency that seems to defy physics, his stride eating up kilometer after kilometer with minimal apparent effort. His breathing remains controlled, his form relaxed, even as he maintains a pace that would exhaust most trained athletes. This contemporary runner is the inheritor of perhaps the most remarkable evolutionary legacy in the natural world: human specialization for endurance locomotion that began developing nearly 2 million years ago in the grasslands of ancient Africa. The evolution of exceptional human endurance capabilities represents one of the most distinctive aspects of our species: adaptation to grassland environments. While most mammals are specialized for either speed or strength, humans evolved a unique combination of locomotor efficiency, thermoregulatory capability, and metabolic endurance that makes us the premier long-distance travelers in the animal kingdom. The anatomical foundations of human endurance performance were laid down during the early evolution of Homo erectus in African grasslands. The tall bodies and long brains of Homo erectus individuals required a lot of energy on a regular basis to function, but their elongated legs and specialized locomotor anatomy provided unprecedented efficiency for sustained travel. By 1.8 million years ago, early humans had evolved body proportions and locomotor capabilities that approached those of modern humans. The foot underwent particularly dramatic evolutionary changes that optimized human endurance performance. The human foot architecture includes specialized features like the plantar arch that functions as a spring during locomotion, storing and releasing energy with each step. Combined with long Achilles tendons and shortened toes, this design creates a propulsive system that is uniquely efficient for sustained bipedal locomotion. Thermoregulatory adaptations may have been even more important than locomotor efficiency for human endurance specialization. Humans evolved sophisticated cooling systems, including increased numbers of sweat glands, reduced body hair, and specialized vascular arrangements that enable exceptional heat dissipation during sustained activity. These adaptations provide enormous advantages during extended exertion in hot environments. The endurance running hypothesis suggests that natural selection specifically favored early humans capable of sustained running performance, possibly for persistence hunting or competitive scavenging. This hypothesis is supported by the appearance of anatomical features associated with endurance running around 2 million years ago, coinciding with the evolution of Homo erectus and their expansion across grassland environments. Persistence hunting represents one possible application of human endurance capabilities that could have provided significant selective pressure for enhanced performance. This hunting technique involves chasing prey animals to exhaustion over distances that can exceed 25 kilometers, taking advantage of human superior thermoregulatory and cardiovascular capabilities in hot conditions. While controversial, persistence hunting may have been crucial for accessing high-quality protein resources in grassland environments. The cardiovascular and respiratory adaptations that support human endurance performance include enhanced oxygen delivery systems, efficient metabolic pathways, and specialized muscle fiber compositions that optimize sustained aerobic activity. These physiological changes represent major evolutionary investments in endurance capability that distinguish humans from other primates and most other mammals. Modern studies of elite endurance athletes provide insights into the remarkable capabilities that humans inherited from their grassland-dwelling ancestors. Contemporary long-distance runners can maintain steady speeds for hours while covering distances that exceed the daily movements of most large mammals. This performance capability appears to be a refined version of abilities that evolved for survival in challenging grassland environments. The metabolic efficiency of human locomotion becomes particularly apparent during extended travel. While humans are not exceptionally fast sprinters, our economy of movement during sustained walking and running is remarkable. The ability to maintain moderate speeds for extended periods with relatively low energy expenditure would have provided crucial advantages for groups crossing vast grassland territories. Energy storage and management strategies evolved to support extended locomotor performance in environments where food resources were unpredictable and widely scattered. Human bodies became capable of storing sufficient energy reserves to support multi-day journeys while maintaining the ability to continue functioning at high levels even during periods of caloric restriction. The neural control systems required for sustained endurance performance represent sophisticated integrations of multiple physiological systems. The human brain evolved capabilities for monitoring and regulating body temperature, energy expenditure, hydration status, and other variables crucial for maintaining performance during extended exertion. This neural integration was essential for optimizing endurance capabilities in challenging environments. Social coordination of endurance activities became important as early human groups learned to manage collective movements across vast territories. Group travel required individuals to coordinate their pace, manage rest stops, and support group members who might be struggling. These social dimensions of endurance travel, selected for enhanced communication abilities and cooperative behaviors, the development of pacing strategies, allowed early humans to optimize their energy expenditure during extended travel. Understanding how to maintain sustainable speeds over long distances while preserving energy reserves for emergencies or final sprints would have been crucial for successful long-distance movement in dangerous environments. Recovery and regeneration capabilities evolved to support repeated bouts of high-level endurance performance. Early humans living mobile lifestyles in grassland environments would have needed to maintain their locomotor capabilities day after day while dealing with the physical stresses of extended travel, variable nutrition, and challenging environmental conditions. Load-carrying adaptations allowed early humans to transport tools, food, water, and other essential resources during extended journeys without significantly compromising their locomotor performance. The ability to carry substantial loads while maintaining efficient locomotion was crucial for supporting mobile lifestyles in environments where resources were widely scattered. Navigation during extended travel required early humans to maintain spatial orientation and route-finding capabilities even during periods of physical stress and fatigue. The cognitive demands of navigation during endurance activities may have provided selective pressure for enhanced spatial reasoning abilities and environmental memory. Risk assessment capabilities became crucial for endurance travelers who had to balance speed against safety while moving through potentially dangerous environments. The ability to recognize and respond appropriately to threats while maintaining locomotor performance was essential for survival during extended travel in predator-rich grassland environments. The teaching and learning of endurance techniques required early human groups to develop systematic methods for transmitting knowledge about pacing, energy management, navigation, and other skills crucial for successful long-distance travel. This educational process was essential for maintaining group capabilities across generations. Seasonal variation in endurance demands required early humans to adjust their locomotor strategies throughout the year in response to changing environmental conditions, resource availability, and group movement patterns. Understanding these seasonal cycles was crucial for optimizing energy expenditure and travel efficiency. The integration of endurance capabilities with other survival skills created comprehensive behavioral systems that enabled early humans to thrive in challenging grassland environments. Endurance travel had to be coordinated with foraging activities, tool use, predator avoidance, and social interactions to create effective survival strategies. Individual variation in endurance capabilities may have led to specialization within early human groups, with some individuals developing exceptional locomotor abilities while others focused on different skills. This division of labor would have optimized group performance, while providing backup capabilities when key individuals were unavailable. The cultural transmission of endurance knowledge included not only technical skills, but also motivational and psychological strategies for maintaining performance during challenging conditions. The ability to push through fatigue, discomfort, and discouragement was as important as any physical capability for successful endurance performance. The legacy of human endurance specialization extends far beyond its original adaptive context in African grasslands. These capabilities provided the foundation for human global expansion, enabling our ancestors to colonize diverse environments and eventually reach every habitable continent. The same endurance abilities that helped early humans cross vast grasslands would later enable exploration of deserts, mountains, and even polar regions. Modern applications of human endurance capabilities continue to demonstrate the remarkable legacy of our grassland-dwelling ancestors. From ultramarathon running to polar exploration, humans continue to push the boundaries of endurance performance in ways that reflect our deep evolutionary heritage as the planet's premier long-distance travelers. In becoming masters of distance and endurance, early humans didn't just adapt to grassland environments. They developed the viride locomotor capabilities that would eventually carry our species to every corner of the Earth and beyond. Chapter 11. The Savannahstan, the cool Pradhan air of the Serengeti. A small group of Maasai herders begins their daily journey across grasslands that have changed little since our earliest ancestors first learned to walk upright in similar landscapes millions of years ago. Their steady, economical gait covers vast distances without apparent effort, their eyes constantly scanning the horizon for signs of weather, wildlife, and the subtle environmental cues that guide survival in open country. These modern pastoralists are living embodiments of an ancient legacy, the inheritance of capabilities developed by early humans who first learned to master life in the vast savannas of prehistoric Africa. The transformation of tree-dwelling apes into grassland-adapted humans represents one of the most profound evolutionary transitions in the history of life on Earth. This change didn't just involve new anatomical features or behavioral adaptations. It fundamentally altered what it meant to be human, creating the foundation for every subsequent achievement of our species. The capabilities developed during millions of years of grassland living continue to shape human biology, behavior, and culture in ways we are only beginning to understand. The anatomical legacy of savanna adaptation is written into every aspect of modern human form and function. Our upright posture, long legs, and specialized foot architecture all reflect evolutionary adaptations to efficient bipedal travel across open terrain. The cardiovascular and thermoregulatory systems that enable modern humans to excel at endurance activities are refined versions of capabilities first developed for survival in hot, open grassland environments, but the legacy extends far beyond physical adaptations to encompass the cognitive and social capabilities that distinguish humans from all other species. The spatial reasoning abilities that enable modern humans to navigate complex environments, the planning capabilities that allow us to coordinate long-term projects, and the social cooperation skills that make civilization possible all have their roots in the challenges of grassland living. The development of technology as a systematic approach to problem-solving began with the stone tools created by early humans for processing grassland resources. The principles of tool design, raw material selection, and technological innovation established during this period provided the diversion, and technological innovation established during this period provided the pring and the minivirid pring bundajisin, raw material selection, and technological innovation established during this period. Parisian this period created the foundation for all subsequent human technological development. From all-down choppers to spacecraft, human technology reflects the problem-solving approaches first developed for savanna survival. Language and communication abilities may have been shaped significantly by the requirements of coordinating group activities across vast grassland territories. The need to share information about distant resources, coordinate long-distance travel, and maintain group cohesion during dangerous journeys would have provided strong selective pressure for enhanced communication capabilities. Modern human linguistic abilities reflect refinements of capabilities first developed for grassland living. The social organization of modern human societies retains elements that can be traced back to grassland adaptations. The importance of leadership during group movements, the need for resource sharing and cooperation, and the value placed on individual expertise within group contexts all reflect social patterns established during millions of years of grassland living. Even modern urban societies show organizational principles that reflect our heritage as social animals, adapted for life in challenging open environments. Modern athletic performance demonstrates the remarkable physical legacy of savanna adaptation. Human endurance capabilities, from marathon running to long-distance walking, represent refined versions of abilities developed for crossing vast grassland territories. The fact that humans continue to excel at endurance activities in hot conditions reflects the persistence of adaptations developed for survival in African Savannahs. The psychological traits that characterize modern humans also show evidence of grassland origins. The human fascination with horizons and open spaces, the satisfaction derived from long-distance travel, and the appeal of exploration and discovery all may reflect deep-seated preferences established during our species' formative period in grassland environments. Even our aesthetic preferences for certain types of landscapes may reflect evolutionary memories of savanna living. Environmental awareness and the ability to read natural signs remain important components of human capability, even in modern technological societies. The skills that enable successful camping, hiking, and wilderness survival reflect refined versions of capabilities developed for grassland living. Modern environmental movements and conservation efforts may represent expressions of deeply rooted understanding of human dependence on natural systems. The role of mobility in human culture reflects the importance of travel and movement in our evolutionary history. Human societies consistently value exploration, trade, and cultural exchange behaviors that may reflect adaptations developed for life in environments where resources were widely scattered and success depended on mobility. The human capacity for migration and adaptation to new environments continues to shape global patterns of population movement, risk assessment, and decision-making capabilities developed for grassland survival continue to influence modern human behavior. The ability to evaluate uncertain situations, make decisions with incomplete information, and coordinate group responses to challenges all reflect cognitive adaptations developed for surviving in unpredictable grassland environments. These capabilities provide the foundation for modern human achievements in fields ranging from business to scientific research. The integration of individual specialization with group cooperation that characterizes modern human societies has its origins in grassland adaptations. The division of labor that enables complex civilizations reflects organizational principles first developed for optimizing group survival in challenging open environments. Modern economies and social systems continue to rely on these fundamental patterns of cooperation and specialization. Cultural transmission of knowledge remains a crucial component of human societies, reflecting the importance of passing survival information across generations that was essential for grassland living. The human capacity for education, mentorship, and knowledge preservation all reflect refined versions of capabilities developed for transmitting environmental knowledge crucial for survival in challenging landscapes. The human relationship with animals continues to reflect patterns established during grassland evolution. From domestic partnerships with dogs and livestock to conservation efforts for wildlife species, modern human-animal relationships show continuities, with patterns that began when early humans learned to coexist with the diverse fauna of African Savannahs. Modern space exploration and the human dream of expanding beyond Earth represent extensions of the same drive for exploration and colonization that first led our ancestors out of African grasslands. The technologies, social organization, and psychological preparation required for space travel all build upon capabilities developed during millions of years of terrestrial exploration and expansion. Climate change adaptation and environmental planning draw upon human capabilities first developed for dealing with variable and challenging environmental conditions in grassland settings. The modern need to predict and respond to changing environmental conditions reflects challenges that have been central to human survival throughout our evolutionary history. The persistence of traditional societies that maintain grassland-adapted lifestyles provides ongoing insights into our species' heritage. Modern pastoralist societies, hunter-gatherer groups, and other traditional peoples continue to demonstrate the effectiveness of social organizations and behavioral patterns developed for savanna living. These societies serve as living laboratories for understanding human potential and adaptability. Urban planning and architectural design continue to reflect human preferences and requirements that were shaped by grassland living. The importance of sightlines, open spaces, and environmental awareness in human settlements reflects deep-seated preferences established during our species' formative period in open environments. The study of human evolution and the growing understanding of our savanna heritage has practical applications for addressing modern challenges. Understanding the environmental conditions and selective pressures that shaped human capabilities can inform approaches to education, healthcare, social organization, and environment management that are more aligned with fundamental human nature. Conservation efforts to preserve remaining grassland ecosystems take on special significance when viewed in the context of human evolutionary history. These environments represent not just important ecological systems, but also the landscape context in which our species developed its most distinctive characteristics. Preserving grasslands means preserving the environmental heritage that made us human. The legacy of the savanna walkers continues to unfold as humans apply their inherited capabilities to new challenges and opportunities. The same problem-solving abilities, social cooperation, and adaptability that enabled survival in ancient grasslands now enable responses to global challenges, technological development, and the exploration of new frontiers. Understanding our heritage as savanna walkers provides perspective on both human potential and human limitations. We are a species shaped by millions of years of adaptation to challenging, open environments, and our greatest achievements continue to reflect the capabilities developed during that formative period. In recognizing this legacy, we gain insight into what makes us human and guidance for navigating the challenges of our contemporary world. Grasslands of ancient Africa gave birth to more than just a new species. They created the foundation for intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability that would eventually enable humans to transform the planet and reach beyond it toward the stars. The neurological legacy of savanna adaptation reveals itself in unexpected ways throughout modern human behavior and cognition. Brain imaging studies of contemporary humans show that our neural pathways still respond most efficiently to the types of environmental challenges our ancestors faced in grassland settings. The same brain regions that evolved to process vast open spaces, track distant movement, and coordinate group travel across dangerous terrain now enable modern humans to excel at complex spatial reasoning, strategic planning, and collaborative problem-solving. In entirely different contexts, medical research has revealed that many of the health challenges facing modern humans stem from mismatches between our savanna-adapted biology and contemporary lifestyles. Our cardiovascular systems evolved for sustained physical activity across varied terrain. Our digestive systems developed to handle irregular meal patterns and diverse food sources. And our stress response mechanisms were calibrated for the specific challenges of grassland survival. Understanding these evolutionary adaptations provides crucial insights for developing more effective approaches to nutrition, exercise, and mental health that align with our inherited biological design. The emergence of human artistic expression and symbolic behavior may have deep roots in savanna adaptation. Cave paintings from around the world frequently depict the types of animals and landscapes that characterized ancient grassland environments, suggesting that these images represent more than simple documentation. They may reflect fundamental aesthetic preferences and symbolic associations that developed during our species' formative period in open African landscapes. The human tendency to create and respond to art that depicts vast horizons, wildlife, and natural phenomena may be expressions of deeply embedded psychological connections to our grassland heritage. Modern educational approaches are beginning to incorporate insights from our savanna legacy to develop more effective learning environments and teaching methods. The human brain evolved to acquire and process information in specific ways that reflected the challenges of grassland survival learning through direct experience, social interaction, and practical application rather than passive absorption of abstract information. Educational systems that incorporate movement, outdoor experiences, and collaborative problem-solving often produce better outcomes because they align more closely with how our brains naturally evolved to learn. The psychological benefits of exposure to natural environments, particularly open landscapes, may reflect deep-seated needs inherited from our grassland-dwelling ancestors. Research in environmental psychology shows that humans consistently report improved mood, reduced stress, and enhanced cognitive function after spending time in natural settings, especially those that resemble savanna environments. This biophilia, our innate affinity for natural landscapes, may represent an evolutionary memory of the environments where our species developed its most distinctive characteristics. Climate change adaptation strategies can benefit from understanding how early humans successfully navigated environmental variability and uncertainty during their grassland evolution. The same cognitive flexibility, social cooperation, and technological innovation that enabled survival during periods of dramatic climate change in prehistoric Africa provide templates for addressing contemporary environmental challenges. Early human responses to expanding grasslands, shifting water sources, and changing resource availability offer models for resilience and adaptation that remain relevant today. The persistence of nomadic and semi-nomadic lifestyles in grassland environments around the world demonstrates the continued viability of social organizations and behavioral patterns that developed during human savanna adaptation. Modern pastoralist societies in Africa, Asia, and other regions continue to demonstrate sophisticated strategies for managing resources, coordinating group movements, and maintaining social cohesion while living in challenging open environments. These contemporary examples provide living laboratories for understanding human potential and offer alternative models for sustainable relationships between human societies and grassland ecosystems. The future of human space exploration may depend heavily on capabilities inherited from our savanna walking ancestors. The psychological resilience group cooperation, and problem-solving abilities required for long-term missions to Mars and other planets closely parallel the challenges faced by early humans crossing vast African grasslands. Understanding how our ancestors successfully managed extended journeys through dangerous, resource-limited environments provides valuable insights for designing effective strategies for space colonization and interplanetary travel. As the sun sets over the African savanna, painting the endless grasslands in shades of gold and amber, we can finally appreciate the magnitude of what occurred in this ancient landscape. The vast open country that once seemed like humanity's greatest challenge became the training ground for our species' most remarkable achievements. Here, surrounded by predators and faced with distances that seemed impossible to cross, our ancestors developed the physical, cognitive, and social capabilities that would eventually carry humans to every continent on Earth. The story of how early humans crossed the vast savannas is ultimately the story of how we became human. The upright walking that began as an adaptation to moving between scattered trees evolved into the most efficient long-distance locomotion in the animal kingdom. The crude stone tools developed for processing grassland resources became the foundation for all human technology. The social cooperation required for surviving in dangerous open country evolved into the complex societies that enable modern civilization. The endurance capabilities that allowed early humans to traverse enormous grassland territories continue to distinguish our species today. From the persistence hunters of the Kalahari to the ultramarathoners of modern athletics, humans remain the planet's premier long-distance travelers. The same cardiovascular and thermoregulatory adaptations that enabled survival in hot African grasslands now enable humans to thrive in challenging environments around the world. But perhaps most remarkably, the crossing of the savannas established humanity as an exploring species beings, driven by an irrepressible urge to discover what lies beyond every horizon. The courage and determination that led our ancestors to venture into unknown grasslands continues to drive human exploration, from the deepest oceans to the farthest reaches of space. The challenges facing our species today, climate change, resource management, global cooperation, require the same combination of intelligence, endurance, and social coordination that enabled our ancestors to master life in ancient grasslands. The same problem-solving abilities that allowed early humans to find water in vast landscapes now enable us to develop renewable energy technologies. The same social cooperation that enabled group survival in dangerous environments now enables global responses to planetary challenges. The psychological legacy of Savannah crossing remains equally important. The human appreciation for open spaces, the satisfaction derived from long journeys, and the deep-seated drive to explore and discover all reflect our heritage as grassland-adapted beings. Understanding this heritage provides insight into what motivates and fulfills our species. As we face an uncertain future, the story of Savannah crossing offers both inspiration and guidance. Our ancestors accomplished something that seemed impossible, transforming from tree-dwelling primates into the world's most successful terrestrial travelers. They proved that intelligence, cooperation, and determination can overcome any barrier. Today, as we contemplate challenges that range from sustainable development to interplanetary exploration, we can draw upon the same heritage of adaptability and persistence that enabled our ancestors to cross the vast savannas. The grasslands of ancient Africa didn't just shape our bodies, they forged the human spirit of exploration, innovation, and achievement that continues to drive our species toward ever greater accomplishments. The Savannah walkers taught us that no distance is too great, no challenge too daunting, and no horizon too distant for the human spirit to reach.